All the powerful females in this world don't live past 18 because they are all matched with Sentinels on the day they come of age. The stronger the psychic power, the more formidable the assigned Sentinel. However, these highly capable Sentinels are all arrogant and proud. How could they possibly be willing to be dominated by a woman? So they cruelly kill their guides before the binding, and then find hundreds of females to suit their sensitive periods. But this useless girl, abandoned by her family, has actually awakened an unprecedented SSS level psychic power and successfully been assigned the top 4 invincible Sentinel bosses. Upon hearing the news, their faces all turned gloomy, each wanting to kill this nominal master. Yet just as the girl was trembling with fear, the top-ranked Sentinel actually rushed over first to bow and submit. As the Academy's top student, he not only tied on an apron to cook for the girl, but even blushed and took the initiative to change and wash the master's intimate clothing. Just now, Yao Yao came to the testing center, hearing that she could be assigned a residence today. But the inspector Li Xiaoxiao showed a hint of disdain. A residence is a privilege only guides with S-level psychic power can enjoy. She didn't think this girl from the slums was anything special. However, the following result made her greatly astonished. The detection value surged continuously until the panel overflowed and finally stopped. Psychic power test result: SSS assigned Sentinels Shengguan Qin, Mo Xiao, Cheng Li by waking assigned residence H District Villa 01. Immediately after, a flash of golden light, streaked by an A bird covered entirely in golden feathers, burst out from the void. With a clear and resonant cry, it landed on Yao Yao's detection pod, a pair of eyes looking down at Li Xiaoxiao with immense pressure. Li Xiaoxiao was immediately startled awake, and the marten that had been perched on her shoulder instantly scurried into her clothes. Not daring to come out, Li Xiaoxiao looked jealously at Yao Yao, lying in the detection pod. Just who is this girl to actually be bound to her male god, the chief officer of the military academy, Shengguan? That's the strongest Sentinel, one who has had a spiritual animal companion since birth, yet someone like him, the male god who stirs unspeakable thoughts in every guide, was actually bound by someone from the slums. She was so angry her eyes turned red. How can this orphan have such good luck? But the next moment, a gaze so intimidating it made her skin crawl shot towards her. A bird covered in golden feathers stared straight at her, although it didn't release any pressure. It made Li Xiaoxiao clearly perceive one message: if she kept looking at its master with such eyes, it would immediately bite her throat off. Li Xiaoxiao shuddered, then pressed the broadcast button. "Miss, you can get up now." However, as soon as Yao Yao stepped out of the pod, she saw a large bird shrink to the size of a fist, land on her shoulder, and affectionately nuzzle her cheek with its head. Yao Yao understood this was her spiritual animal. So soft, cute, and lively. "How about I call you Kiku Ball Ball?" The little golden bird happily flapped its wings. Whatever its master named it, it would like it. Till Yao Yao took the little bird to that 1,000-year-old ownerless villa. Li Xiaoxiao's eyes were filled with hatred. Reddened, unable to hold back the jealousy any longer, he roared at her retreating figure. "Don't you get cocky? You think breaking up with 4 of the strongest Sentinels assigned, do you really think you can bond with them? Let me tell you, before they bond, they will join forces to kill you." Yao Yao naturally knew this rule. Before a guide and Sentinel officially bond at the bonding station, the Sentinel can free themselves from the terminals as assignment by killing the guide. Yet she looked forward to it immensely, wanting to engage in a life or death battle with those 4 strongest Sentinels. In her previous life, she relied on her spatial ability to reign supreme in the apocalypse. Now, reborn into a new life, her spatial ability remained with her. Her love for combat ingrained in her bones. At the same time, on the central terminal's large screen in the city center, the information of the top 4 Sentinels had all changed today, each with the words "awaiting bonding" lit up at the end. Meanwhile, on another screen displaying the guide rankings, the top spot had clearly changed to a new person: Liu Yao, SSS Glass Special Commander. The crowd suddenly erupted in excitement. Who is this person? Could it be the daughter of the tycoon friend Liu family? Impossible. The Liu family has only 5 daughters in total, 4 of whom have already become commanders, leaving the last one a doll. The day before her coming of age, she fell down the stairs and died with a crack. The funeral had already passed a few days ago when, right at this moment, a person suddenly shouted, I found out she was actually a commoner from the outer city slums. Immediately, someone sneered, even if she possesses SSS level psychic power, what use is it? She definitely hasn't learned any military skills at all. How is she supposed to lead our first strongest Sentinels to the Federation's battle? Beside them, someone immediately chimed in. They have stated to the outside world more than once that they are unwilling to bond with any guide and can't stand the feeling of being oppressed by a guide. They will definitely join forces to kill her. At this moment, in the top floor office of the elite military academy, Shangguan sat upright in a soft leather chair, coldly staring at her own. The task on the identity card is to arrive at Villa 01 before 20 o'clock tonight and meet with the guide assigned by the terminal. Assemble and proceed to the central city binding station to complete the binding with the guide. The next moment, the identity card in hand was crushed into dust. Shangguan's expression was inscrutable. In the conference room of the largest intelligence organization, Qin Moxiao's crimson lips curled up. If you dare to come and pester me, I won't mind killing you. Meanwhile, in the underground black market arena, Chang Li crushed the wine glass in her hand. On the arena, surrounded by 30,000 spectators, two sentinels were desperately attacking each other just to win the reward he had set. Chang Li looked at this underground kingdom that belonged solely to him and let out a fierce cry. I clawed my way from the slums of the outer city to the city center, not just to be bound to a guide. At the same time, in the courtyard of the Bai family, one of the three great families, Bai Viking's features were gentle and elegant. Bai Shuanger, the guide ranked second, parted her red lips lightly. Brother, are you going to bind with this guide? His eyes lowered slightly, hiding his thoughts. This is none of your business. Bai Waking got up and left, but in truth, he had already made a decision in his heart. Throughout all these years of practicing medicine, he had never once considered binding with any guide. However, no one could have imagined that at this moment inside H01 Villa, an SSS glass sentinel was already waiting for his master's rival. Yao Yao had just opened the door when she heard a cool, magnetic voice. You're back. She saw a tall, handsome man. The man stood inside the room, his strong and powerful waist tied with the ribbon of an apron, which immediately made Yao drool uncontrollably. Are you my sentinel? Shangguan nodded, his sexy, icy, thin lips parting slightly. Come eat. After eating we'll go bind. The gentle demeanor of this icy beauty nearly made Yao Yao stop breathing. I heard that you, the strongest sentinels forcibly assigned to guides, the first thing you do upon meeting your guide should be to kill him. Yet, Shangguan lowered his gaze slightly. When I saw the mission on the identity card, the first thing I thought about was what kind of apron to buy. Yao was instantly struck with embarrassment. Rumors really could kill. The fight she had anticipated didn't come. Instead, she got such a handsome house husband. Then she saw Shangguan's dark eyes shift slightly, but the other three sentinels might not necessarily be the same. Upon hearing this, Yao Yao's eyes immediately lit up. Really, this made Shangguan fall silent. Looking at this young-looking girl, he was somewhat surprised. His guide not only wasn't afraid, but instead seemed quite expectant and eager. 2 hours later, the terminal hall was sparsely populated, some even starting to yawn. However, the appearance of Yao Yao and Shangguan was like a bomb dropped inside, instantly igniting everyone's emotions. That's my male god Shangguan. Is he here to bind? Why would he come to bind? At this moment, the two walked side by side. Though Yao Yao wore simple black athletic wear, yet it is not in the least inferior to the cold, stern black uniform worn by Shangguan beside them. Standing together, they are quite a match. Accompanied by Yao Yao, she approached a staff member. Excuse me, how do we complete the binding? However, the Wang Shuang before her simply could not tear her gaze away from Shangguan's face, forcing herself to reply, just show the guide and Sentinel's ID cards to complete the binding. As she spoke, she swallowed hard in front of Shangguan. If you're being held against your will, just blink. Unexpectedly, the next moment, Shangguan's dark, cold eyes turned to her. An inexplicable chill shot from Wang Shuang's feet straight to her brain, her complexion instantly turning deathly pale. Sorry, I was distracted just now. Then, familiarly, she took the ID cards and began the operation. Shangguan, binding completed. As the mechanical voice sounded, Shangguan's information appeared on the Sentinel rankings. It has become bound. The entire world is boiling. At the top floor of the Dark Organization's office building, Qin Moxiao's handsome, taciturn face curved into a dangerous smile, his magnetic and pleasant voice carrying condemnation for the three. Character Shangguan, traitor who doesn't know if an unbound sentinel wants to kill their guide to regain freedom. They must also kill the sentinel bound to that guide, and the bound sentinel must strive to protect the guide, otherwise if the guide dies, the sentinel who completed the binding will also die. In the underground black market, Chang Li wished she could crush the identity card in her hand to pieces. Shangguan, from today on, you are my Chang Li's greatest enemy. Meanwhile, in the Bai family villa, Bai Waking spat out that tea in his mouth in one go. What's going on? How could Shangguan be so reckless? In another villa, Yao Yao hadn't even had time to sit down before she heard Shangguan's indisputable, cool voice. Take off your clothes. Tomorrow morning we have a mission they need to be washed in advance. We'll buy new clothes on the way back. Oh right, first take off your bra and panties and give them to me. These undergarments need to be washed and dried first. As she spoke, Shangguan had already put on her gray lace-trimmed apron. Even Yao Yao, a battle-hardened Special Forces queen, was made somewhat embarrassed by Shangguan's words. That actually, I can do it myself. However, before she could finish, she was interrupted. Take them off, give them to me. Shangguan's cold and stern features exuded an uncompromising seriousness, as if Yao Yao's words were not a simple request, but deprived him of the right to take care of her. Yao didn't dare argue anymore. Help, it's more like wanting to kill. She is so fixated on being that sentinel who washes clothes and cooks for him, she really doesn't know how to deal with Yao Yao's escape. He seemed to return to the bedroom, yet the voice of Shangguan at the door still echoed after undressing. Remember to use the blanket to wrap your body well. Don't catch a cold. After saying this, he waited quietly at the door, not thinking his own behavior was inappropriate. In any way, he had been waiting for the terminal to assign him a guide for several years, and he was very grateful that the guide assigned to him by the terminal was the one he had in mind. Thinking of this, Shangguan's thin lips inadvertently lifted. Just then, the door opened a crack and an arm handed out the clothes. The moment Shangguan took the clothes, he inadvertently caught a glimpse of the scene behind the door. His ears flushed red instantly, and his heart, steady as a rock, suddenly became flustered. He took the clothes, turned and left, desperately suppressing his emotions. With a cold expression, he washed Yao Yao's underwear. Inside the bedroom, Yao Yao was hiding under the covers, blushing, heart-pounding non-stop. This feeling was completely different from the excitement and thrill of battle. It was the first time experiencing it. On the other side, Shangguan was contemplating tomorrow's mission. Generally, to deal with an SS glass defiler, a sentry must closely protect the guide, but currently the other 3 sentries have not yet arrived to complete the binding, so tomorrow's battle certainly won't be easy. Yao Yao came from the slums, growing up alone by scavenging trash, so he likely knows little about military command. Previously, he led the entire schools for adjutants and 52 sentries in a half-month battle against 10 S-glass defilers, but his adjutants and sentries were exhausted by the ordeal. Yet tomorrow he must face an SS glass defiler alone. Thinking of this, a sharp light flashed in his eyes. No matter what, tomorrow he will definitely protect Yao Yao. In the dark organization's office building on the other side, tomorrow we go to the Phantom Cave in the dense forest to challenge the SS glass defiler. I hope this time it can give me some pressure. Qin Moxiao's lips curled up, his words filled only with a madman's excitement for battle, completely unaware that tomorrow he would meet the guide assigned to him. The next day, inside the Phantom Cave forest, Shangguan protected Yao Yao at his side, vigilantly surveying the surroundings. The next moment, a surge of roaring sound erupted. For the first time, Yao saw what the defilers in this world actually looked like. It was entirely blood red, as if skinless, and its mouth looked as if it had been brutally branded open with a torch. The hole was the same. Looking at it made one's scalp tingle. Shangguan's expression was slightly unpleasant. It was an S-glass defilement. Although he was an SSS glass, Sentinel defilements were not easily vanquished things, and today just happened to be his once every 3 months mental frenzy period, during which he was extremely susceptible to defilement, pollution, yet he still needed to protect Yao Yao, who had no combat experience or command experience. However, the next second, Shangguan only felt a gust of wind brush past his cheek, and before him appeared that absurd scene of Yao Yao battling the S-Glass defilement. This completely stunned him. His icy expression for the first time in his life showed a look of shock because Yao Yao's striking speed was too fast, making it completely unimaginable that such power and speed would appear on a guide who only knew how to command. Even the expression on her face was difficult for ordinary people to understand. He had never seen excitement on the face of any guide or sentinel before. Bang, bang, bang. Yao Yao threw her punches with force, fiercely beating the S-Glass defilement. The S-Glass defilement angrily waved its limbs, emitting a black miasma from its body that polluted the mind. Yao Yao hurriedly dodged, then looked at Shangguan. How do you kill this thing? Shangguan finally snapped back to reality, his hand already holding a long sword shimmering with blue light. I'll protect you. With Yao Yao having such self-preservation ability, he could also fight without worry. He only hoped the frenzy period would come a little later so she wouldn't be polluted too severely by the defilement. Yao observed the weapon in Shangguan's hand. It looked just like the soldier's spiritual power is released through the artifact, which makes Yao Yao's eyes light up. Within her own space, there are still many airplanes, guns, and cannons. Couldn't she channel her spiritual power in the form of bullets? Yao Yao can't wait to take out her weapons for an experiment. However, before she could even draw her pistol, a new defilement leapt out from the forest. Eat her, just eat her, and it will be able to evolve into an SSS level defilement. It quickly swung its arm, grabbing Yao Yao and running towards the depths of the dense forest. Shangguan, who was in the midst of battle, instantly felt his heart in a knot. He had been careless. Even if Yao Yao had the ability to protect herself, how could she possibly withstand the speed of an SS level defilement? He accelerated the infusion of spiritual power into his long sword, but because of the berserk phase, he was completely corrupted by the S-level defilement, falling into madness if his delirium cannot be resolved. Within 12 hours, he will permanently live in this state. However, what he didn't know was that Yao Yao had actually purposefully let the defilement capture her. After all, there were too many things in her space. If she didn't find a secluded spot, how could she properly test each one? With a bang, a round blue light bullet shot from the pistol in Yao Yao's hand, straight piercing into the body of the SS level defilement. The SS level defilement let out a wretched cry and immediately released the large hand clutching Yao Yao. In that case, that next moment, a machine gun appeared in Yao Yao's hand. How about trying this? 10 consecutive bullets all slammed into the body of the SS level defilement. The SS level defilement instantly let out bursts of agonized screams. The commotion instantly attracted a team not far from here, a 4-person squad led by Qin Moxiao. The sound suggested at least an S-class defilement. One of them was extremely vigilant, though it seemed more like a one-sided slaughter. The next moment, Qin Moxiao at the head moved, arriving near Yao Yao in no time. He peered at the figure obscured by the SS glass defilement, straining to know who this sentinel was, treating the SS glass defilement like a toy. Could it be that legendary boss of the underground black market, Chang Li? Qin Moxiao guessed. After all, besides her, only 2 others had this capability. By waking all day acting gentle and refined, like Jade, was actually a cleanliness-obsessed fox to the core, utterly impossible to come to such a place. As for Shangguan, a look of disdain surfaced on his face. That Shangguan who had become a guide's dog, how could he possibly come alone to the Ghost Cave Forest? He's probably kneeling like a dog at that guide's feet right now, begging for food, right? Amidst his guesses, Yao Yao, whose figure was finally appeared. Her face wore a bold, unrestrained smile, holding a cold weapon never before seen in the star system. This made Qin Moxiao freeze for a moment. It was actually a guide. He watched Yao Yao toying with the glass defilement, his heart itching with her every move. If someone like this could become my guide, I wouldn't mind either. However, he smiled woodenly, curling his lip. She seems to have underestimated the SS glass defilement. As the words fell, the SS glass defilement glared in furious rage. His eyes changed and the miasma around him instantly thickened tenfold, each strand of miasma condensing into sharp, pointed swords, stabbing straight toward Yao Yao's spirit. Yao Yao, struck for the first time, hadn't yet realized anything, but when she lifted her hands and found them unusually heavy. She finally reacted. This was bad. She had underestimated the filth in this world. Yao quickly made a judgment. She could only rely on provoking it, letting it hit her and throw her out of its attack range. Otherwise, its continuous mental attacks would cause her to lose consciousness. She raised her hand, wanting to fire another bullet, but her waist was effortlessly grasped by someone, easily pulling her away from the S-class filth's vicinity. Not a bad idea. Qin Moxiao chuckled softly. It's just a pity you know too little about S-class filth. Qin Moxiao didn't release Yao Yao's waist. Instead, he instinctively sensed an extremely attractive power emanating from her. He extended his other hand, ambiguously caressing her pale little face. Tell me, have you bound a sentinel? Surrounded by no sentinel protection, Yao made Qin Moxiao subconsciously think she was a lone guide. Qin Moxiao pressed his nose against Yao Yao's nose, their breaths intertwining, enjoying the intimate contact with Yao immensely. You are very much to my taste. The next second, he opened his mouth and bit down hard on the dazed Yao's neck. But Yao couldn't resist at all, only managing to let out a weak, muffled groan. Ha ha ha. Qin Moxiao did not leave her neck, instead licking it meticulously with bursts of laughter. Just at this moment, a clear and loud cry appeared. It was Yao's spirit animal, a flying bird named Kiku with feathers of pure golden yellow. Its body rapidly enlarged. The golden creature stared directly at Qin Moxiao, who was embracing Yao, adopting a posture ready to attack at any moment. Qin Moxiao's laughter grew even more pronounced. Your spirit animal is actually extremely compatible with mine. However, Qin Moxiao looked towards the SS level gray rushing towards them from afar. How could I place you in a dangerous situation? For fear of my dear one getting hurt, he had just placed the completely unconscious Yao under a tree when Kiku already positioned itself between him and Yao. Qin Moxiao felt somewhat helpless. It seems I can only bid you farewell again. After quickly dealing with this SS level gray with Kiku's appearance, Qin Moxiao, however, also worried that the spiritual animal represents the master's state. Kiku did not show signs of pollution, which is enough to show Yao is only temporarily unconscious. The next moment, Qin Moxiao turns around and joins the battle. Not far from here in the dense forest, a snow-white snow lion is now surrounded by black energy. He is dragging Shangguan's clothes and walking towards the sense direction. A pair of eyes full of kingly authority faintly show signs of madness. This is precisely the spiritual animal that manifested from Shangguan's birth. Then Kiku lets out a cheerful cry. Because the two beasts' masters are spiritually bound, they are innately intimate with each other. Roar. Yu lets out a long howl and hurriedly comes over Shangguan, staggering and completely unaware of what is before him. Only senses the presence that gives him a strong sense of yearning and subconsciously restrains all his strength, instinctively not wanting the dark energy around him to scare Yao to. He slowly crouches down, embraces Yao, closes his eyes to soothe the madness surrounding him. Yao, he calls softly, the frantic spirit gradually being soothed, and he falls into a deep, heavy sleep. When Shangguan wakes up again, he realizes he is lying in Yao's arms. Unknowingly, he peacefully passed through her period of being polluted and maddened in Yao's embrace, and even past his own 3-month cycle of madness. This astonishes Shangguan immensely. For a guide to soothe the Sentinels' spirit, it must be done consciously, gradually comforting with spiritual power. He never heard that just by falling asleep in the guide's arms, it could eliminate all spiritual aspects of the Sentinel. It was in this moment of unrest that he finally noticed Yao's pallid complexion. Shangguan's mind went into a panic. Yao's slender, distinct-knuckled hand gently cradled Yao's pale, delicate little face. In his cold, clear eyes, there was only concern for Yao. A clear, magnetic voice sounded by her ear. Yao frowned slightly in discomfort. Yet this slight frown seemed to pierce Shangguan's heart. It was then he remembered he could use his now calm mental energy to probe Yao's condition. Only after the examination was complete did Shangguan fully set his heart at ease. It was fortunately just a brief fainting spell. He stroked the stray hairs on Yao's forehead, his heart aching unbearably. However, the next moment his deep, dark eyes saw that glaringly obvious bite mark imprinted on Yao Yao's neck. His breath caught abruptly. Stagnation, jealousy, and care uncontrollably pour out like a torrent, the throbbing veins on the back of the hand glaringly conspicuous. Then, the strength throughout his body was 10 times more terrifying than the madness of the tri-monthly frenzied period. In the end, he lowered his head, with difficulty swallowing the churning jealousy in his chest, regaining composure as he gently lifted Yao Yao by the waist, almost as if afraid of breaking her, handling her with extreme care. He was going to take Yao Yao home to find someone to treat her as. For the mark on Yao Yao's neck, his face revealed an unprecedented icy coldness. If he found out which dog bit Yao Yao, he wouldn't mind chopping it into pieces. Shang Guan and Yao Yao's figures quickly disappeared into the ghost-withering forest, while on the other side, the SS level Gray was also successfully killed. Ha 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 ha, the leader is the leader indeed. So quickly leading us to kill an SS level Gray. One of the members laughed heartily at the end. The brothers can level up their spiritual rank again, Qin Maxiao smirked at the words, the orange star core in his hand, glittering with dazzling light. No, this star core wasn't taken down by us. Long before we fought it. Someone had already worn it down to its limit. The member looked surprised. Could there really be another powerful organization emerging? Qin Maxiao licked his teeth, his smile sinister. Not an organization and not a sentinel either, but a guide. What? The three were collectively shocked. A guide could actually achieve such a feat. Qin Maxiao's expression was one of leisurely ease. It seems I need to quickly kill that burden of a guide, forcibly assigned to me by the terminal. Otherwise, how can I bind with my dear, making her belong to me alone for life? Thinking this, he rushed swiftly toward the tree where Yao Yao was placed, yet what awaited him was nothing but emptiness. Meanwhile, in front of the villa at the spirit gathering demon cave, Shengguan had just arrived when he saw an uninvited guest standing at the door. By waking waited lazily. He didn't come here to bind with Yao Yao, but simply wanted to see the real reason Shengguan bound with Yao Yao. As for Yao Yao, she simply wasn't in his eyes. What are you doing here? The hostility in Shengguan's words was exceptionally clear. He knew a sentinel bound to a guide could never have just one, but ever since seeing that dogtooth mark, an uncontrollable possessiveness had inexplicably risen in his heart. At this moment, By Waking smiled. I was trying to find out what was going on since you didn't show up at the military academy all day, so I simply came here to wait for you. Sensing that something was off, Fang didn't care about Yao Yao, and Shangguan's hand finally loosened a bit. The one in your arms is that guide, right? By Waking tutted. So weak, huh? Fainted from just a small mission, but it looks like your frenzy period was safely weathered because Shangguan possessed the strongest mental power since birth. The frenzy period that came every 3 months was a world-ending disaster for him. Fortunately, By Waking had the skill to develop healing potions for the 3-monthly mental frenzy period. He had always relied on his potions to endure the 3 days of torment. But this time, it seems he passed through the frenzy period exceptionally easily. By Waking narrowed his eyes, smiling. You bonded with her to use her to help you through the frenzy period, right? Shangguan paused upon hearing this. From the very beginning, he never thought about using the guide assigned to him by the terminal. In his perception, a guide was just he needs someone to take care of and cherish, but now he has changed. He feels more than just care for Yao Yao, a caring heart and that intense, overflowing possessiveness. I am going to use her. Shangguan, without a shred of shame, Red Ground Lying, did not hope By Waking to continue staying here as expected. By Waking's eyes flashed past. His lips curled into a wild, reckless smile. I have a way to break your mental bond with her in a very short time. As long as we kill her during this period, we can be completely free, and this new type of potion, compared to before, it can further soothe your spirit, said By Waking, taking out a pale green potion. Now is exactly an opportunity. Upon hearing this, a sudden change flashed in Shangguan's eyes. He and By Waking had interacted many times and had developed a bit of brotherly affection between them. If it were anyone else, he would definitely kill the other person at this moment. Who would have thought? By Waking took Shangguan's silence as consent, and the potion in his hand went straight toward Yao Yao's neck. With a slap, Shangguan punched By Waking's wrist, causing By Waking's wrist to directly fracture, and the potion in his hand fell to the ground. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Shangguan, you hit me on purpose. shattering my potion was to protect her, to protect a guide who fell into a coma after just healing you once. Guide Shangguan's expression was icy cold. I'm not just protecting Yao Yao, but also because I don't want to sever the spiritual bond with her, not even for a moment. Upon hearing this, Bai Waking laughed in anger. So, for the sake of her, you're willing to make enemies of 3 of the top 4 Sentinels, but Shangguan didn't want to say more because he directly and instinctively believed that if they also spent some time with Yao Yao, they would inevitably, like him, unknowingly fall into feelings for her. He absolutely did not want to share the guide with others, let alone. At this moment, Shangguan thought jealously of that unsightly bite mark on Yao Yao's neck, wondering if there were other, more intimate acts. Who knew Bai Waking would be enraged by his aloof attitude. Since this is your choice, then don't blame me and the other 2 Sentinels for joining forces to kill you and her. With that, he left without looking back, his retreating figure filled with rage. After a while, a guide doctor examined Yao Yao's condition, though his expression was somewhat awkward. Commander Shangguan, your guide isn't seriously ill, it's just that healing you consumed too much of her spiritual power, which is why she fell into a prolonged coma. As long as that Liu Yuan glanced awkwardly at Yao Yao on the bed, wondering how he could possibly say what came next to Commander Shangguan. Shangguan, seeing his troubled expression, immediately became anxious, but the medicine was hard to find. No, not Liu Yuan said with difficulty the words that followed. If the guide wants to restore mental power, it's very simple, just need a few intimate and close contacts with the bound sentinel, the more the better. Hearing this, Shangguan's Adam's apple bobbed up and down. I know the fee will be transferred to your identity card in a moment. You can leave. After the doctor left, the ambiguous flame raised the temperature in the room. Shangguan's fingers gently brushed through the stray hair by her ear, saw the bite mark covered by his band-aid. Whose it was, he didn't know. His pupils deepened into a darker blue. His eyes uncontrollably drifted towards her extremely beautiful lips. Yao Yao, get better quickly, Shangguan said heartbrokenly in a low voice. He only wished Yao Yao could get better quickly and did not want to take advantage of Yao Yao being unconscious, using the excuse of helping her quickly restore mental power to rudely do things to Yao Yao that would dispel the jealousy in his heart. On the other side, returning home, Bai Waking's face was ugly. His anger had not diminished in the slightest. Yet upon entering the villa, he saw the scene he least wanted to see. Bai Shuang'er was sitting at the dining table filled with exquisite delicacies, waiting for him. Brother, you're back. Bai Waking's expression instantly turned ugly. Why aren't you staying in your B district villa? What are you doing here? That gentle, jade-like face held no fondness for Bai Shuang'er. Bai Shuang'er was his sister, the nominal young lady of the Bai family, but actually she was adopted by their parents when she was 5 years old, 2 years younger than him. The daughter of a few years old, because their family needs a guide to serve as a facade for dealing with external perceptions. But this sister, I don't know when she changed. She was no longer gentle and elegant like she was in childhood, but had only obsession. He accidentally glimpsed her true face on the day she turned 18 and was assigned a sentinel by the terminal. He discovered she had poisoned their parents, nearly harming them. He confronted her, but she only laughed maniacally and confessed to him her nearly obsessive love. Brother, I killed mom and dad for you. They were the obstacle keeping us apart. Only by killing them can I be with you as long as we can be together. I am willing to pay any price. From that day on, all sisterly affection for him vanished from her. She found an excuse to send their parents to a vacation resort to retire and kept this matter hidden. After that, Bai Shuang'er acted as if nothing. Just like everyone else, she dutifully bound the 3 sentinels assigned to her by the terminal and headed to the location assigned by the terminal. The B district villa assigned to her for residents only underestimated the extent of her madness. He thought she was bound the sentinel would live a disciplined life afterwards, yet she not only came to the Bai family villa every other day, like is that he has never been bound to a sentinel, still just his sister, but he knows this is only outside of her madness. The illusion at this moment. Bai Shuang'er pouts her little mouth. Brother, the food is almost cold. Come and eat quickly. Bai Waking, his hands clenched into fists in anger. He could not expose her true face, because doing so would not only upset mom and dad. Furious, it would also bring shame to the Bai family. He turned and left without saying another word to Bai Shuanger, the next moment by Shuang. Her childlike, reserved face froze into a terrifying madness in order to bind herself to her brother. She not only fought desperately to improve, raising one's own spiritual level even to the point of killing one's beloved parents, but the brother not only doesn't see to her heart's content yet so coldly towards her. Today, brother was not around all day. She inquired a bit. It turned out he went to find the guide assigned to him by the terminal. By Shuanger trembled with hatred. No matter who it was, she cannot stop her from being with her brother Yao. Yao, this lowlife from the slums, must be eliminated. On the other side, Yao, still in a deep slumber, vaguely caught a whiff of the fragrance, and she almost fought with all her might. She snapped his eyes open, only to find himself incredibly weak. It seems I overestimated. She had no systematic interest in understanding the world before she took action directly. She was completely unaware of herself. At this very moment, the world's first guide who could fight in battle, Shang Guan, arrived by Yao's bedside. His voice. The voice was so gentle it was almost unbelievable. You're awake, Yao said, somewhat embarrassed. I've caused you trouble. Just then, her mind conjured up Qin Moxiao's face. That person had saved her, and it seemed he had done something else to her as well. Shang Guan helped Yao up and sat her against the headboard. It's my fault for not protecting you well enough, otherwise you wouldn't. We'll make you fall into a coma. At this point, his gaze turned cold for an instant, looking at the band-aid on Yao's neck. Not being bitten by a stray dog of unknown origin. Upon hearing this, Yao's face turned pale. No, ultimately it is my fault. She thought she could take care of that SS level Hui from start to finish. She never regarded Shang Guan as her equal, a comrade in arms who fought alongside her, but merely an outsider who hindered her from accessing the weapons within her personal space. It was precisely because of this that all of this was set in motion. Yet Shang Guan did not know why Yao would reveal such an expression, his only concern being her health. I've already had a doctor check you over, you just need to. Upon reaching this point, he froze, not voicing the thought of wanting intimate contact with the sentry. Then he blinked. With a blink of her beautiful eyes, she just needs to rest well and she'll be fine. Then she explained the whole story from beginning to end. When hearing the military academy's doctor diagnose him, the special forces king from his past life had a brilliant gleam shining in his eyes. Do you have time to take me to the Sentinel Military Academy where you are and train together in the original body's memories only? The military tactics of commanding Sentinels learned from the Liu family did not involve any joint actions with the Sentinels to kill Hui. Obviously, the spiritual bond between the guide and the Sentinel was even more beneficial for combat than he had imagined. Yao fainted. Afterwards, she was taken care of very well, and she had completely categorized Shang Guan as a comrade, feeling the warmth on her wrist. The warmth of touch and delicate skin. Shang Guan's Adam's apple bobbed up and down, though he didn't know what Yao was up to this time with what happened during the SS level Hui operation, but he clearly sensed that Yao was getting closer to him. On the other side, as soon as Qin Moxiao returned to the dark organization, an attendant handed him an invitation. It was from this underground black factory's Wang Chengli sent you the cooperation invitation. Qin Moxiao accepted Chengli's invitation. By Wiking's side did not any movement. The waiter scratched his head and said, I heard Cheng Li also sent that invitation to the by family villa, but I don't know. For some reason, his younger sister by Shuanger accepted the invitation on his behalf. The next day, Yao got up very early. After a night's rest, her mental energy has noticeably improved quite a bit. Wearing a uniform, Shang Guan, charmed by Yao's vibrant visage that radiates her youthful vigor. Yao. Truly nothing is more beautiful than Yao's recovery of her spiritual energy. Why is the speed so fast? What are you standing there for? Yao called out with a smile, telling him to sit down and eat breakfast quickly. Are you going to the Sentinel Academy after eating? Shang Guan gazed into Yao's eyes, his tenderness so deep it could almost drown her. I am immensely enjoying this brief, quiet time with Yao, wishing I could be with Yao forever. However, opposite to him, Yao's mind is filled with thoughts of fighting and killing. She has already decided to treat Shang Guan as being her comrade in arms, yet the things in her personal space still cannot be taken out so conspicuously. So she plans to go to Ghost Cave Ridge again, just say she found it there unintentionally after the meal. The two of them came to the Sentinel Military Academy, yet today, there are unexpectedly many people. Everywhere you can see one guide, leading 3 or 4 or even. It was a scene of 80 or 90 Sentinels. Yao Yao stared, dumbfounded at everything before her. Shangguan's lips tightened. He actually forgot that today is the today joint training for guides and Sentinels, which happens every 3 months. This time he also had a guide. Yao Yao, come with me. Shangguan took Yao Yao's hand, leading with his tall and straight figure. Wearing Yao Yao, they both moved forward with exceptional charisma, attracting everyone's attention as soon as they entered the military academy. None of these guides and Sentinels, who are at least S-class, do not know Shangguan. Yao Yao, however, was not known by a single person except for the Liu family's 4th, Miss Liu Yaoju, who widened her eyes in astonishment. I almost doubted my own eyes, staring straight at Yao Yao's face without blinking. Liu Yao Yao, it's Liu Yao Yao, who doesn't even dare to speak loudly at home, just like her useless Sentinel father. No need to be cowardly, thrown into the slums by mother, removed from the Liu family registry, and even held a funeral overnight to announce it to the world. Announcing her fatal fall, Yao Yaojiazu wasn't unaware of the name on the guide leaderboard, but from the start, there was no connection made between the two. After all, her utterly useless 5th sister was a spirit with divine power, being negative, not even having a single spiritual animal. How could a worthless wretch suddenly become SSS level guide and also became a top level commander? This made Yaoju so angry that he gritted his teeth, his face contorted. Song, her heart surging with a sudden, inexplicable burst of jealousy. Yaoju, what's wrong with you? By your side, the S-class Sentinel she was, bound to, soft and boneless, pressed against her body. How did she suddenly get angry? Yaoju glared at the person who spoke up. What business is it of yours? Someone who only knows how to act spoiled and coquettish all day, growing up to look like a fox spirit with that seductive look of a Sentinel. What else can you do besides clinging to me and pestering me all day long? With Shangguan as a comparison, Yaoju is practically going to die of anger. If you really care about me, then hurry back to your Sentinel father's shell. Let's give it a good makeover again. Change its appearance. Lai Tianyang's face was extremely pale, white to the point of transparency. Their status as Sentinels has always been low, not only without the right to choose a guide. After being bound to a guide, they can only rely on the guide to live. If the guide dies, they die, but if they die, the guide could immediately assign new Sentinels to consolidate their position. They could only resort to all their might, using all her charms to win the guide's favor. Shangguan brought Yao Yao into the office, filled with Shangguan's distinctive style. The office is permeated with an aura of abstinence, with black leather sofas and wild, decorative ornaments everywhere. It was all Shangguan's flamboyance. Shangguan stood by the window, a sight that stirred the flames. Yao Yao watched this scene. Some inexplicable impulses are truly strange. She feels a bit of restlessness in her body and even more so in her heart. It was the day before being ground into an itch. The doctor guide told Shangguan about treating the guide's spiritual energy deficit. Method, in fact, only tells half of the story, while the other half is that a guide whose mental energy is in a depleted state will uncontrollably wanting to seek healing from the Sentinel. But Shangguan remains completely unaware of my adjutant coming right away. He will arrange an unmanned training chamber for us. However, the next moment, Shangguan King, the powerfully strong waist, was tightly embraced by Yao Yao's arms. Shangguan's pupils abruptly contracted in a seismic tremor. He looked incredulously at the Yao Yao in his arms, their warm skin touching, clearly separated by clothing. Shangguan felt as if an electric current surged through his entire body, causing his throat to itch and his voice to turn hoarse beneath it. The veins throbbed restlessly, suppressing Yao Yao. Yao Yao, clinging tightly to Shangguan, only felt that on his body there was something she desired. As long as she gets close to him, he feels extremely comfortable. She rubs her cheek against Shangguan's pectoral muscles, murmuring. Nanda called out to Shangguan, her voice so tender it seemed as if it could drip with water. Until this moment, the secretly delighted Shangguan then realized something was wrong. Even if Yao Yao had just developed some feelings for him yesterday, it was absolutely impossible for her to. The next day, she would not be so intimate with him, nor would she call him in such a bewitching voice. It must be Where is something wrong? Shangguan's broad hands carefully held Yao Yao's shoulders, slowly turning her around. Pushing away from his own embrace at that very moment, the door was unexpectedly opened. Sir, I'm sorry. I'm late. This Zhuang just now saw Shangguan, who was holding someone with his back to him and didn't quite react. While Shangguan was tightly embracing Yao, pressing her cheek against his own heart. His heart was pounding because of Zhuangji's appearance, and it beat even more intensely because Yao Yao was so close to him. He doesn't want anyone to see Yao Yao's current state. No one can. Zhuang finally reacted. Come, sir, sorry, I didn't know you and your guide were getting intimate. I'll leave right away. Wait, Shangguan's voice was so hoarse. It was almost unrecognizable. He held Yao in his arms, his knuckles distinct, his hands so large he could hold her with just one. The hand that could cover Yao Yao's waist with just its palm was doing its utmost to restrain itself from moving, not daring to even more so. Lowering his head to glance at Yao Yao because Yao Yao, leaning against his heart, was unconsciously nuzzling against his chest. Shangguan pressed down his gaze, though very unwillingly. The only person he knew with top-notch medical skills was just one. That is the Bai Waking that Yao Yao needs to bind to. He knows Bai Waking too well, knowing that he wouldn't because of the woman has broken off with herself, and as a doctor, she would never actively harm Yao Yao, but she is unsure whether he would want to take the initiative to bind Yao Yao. But now there's nothing to be done. Tell me which training chamber is empty and go there. By the way, bringing Bai Waking to the secret room was something Zhuang informed her of the room number before hastily leaving. And before leaving, he didn't forget to. The door was closed and Shangguan finally had a moment to catch his breath. He held Yao Yao in his arms with one hand, noticing that she needed to rely on him to alleviate her discomfort. He took off his coat and draped it over Yao Yao's head, then, holding Yao Yao in a single arm, Princess Carrie on the other side. Upon receiving the message, Bai Waking's lips curved up at the corner, wondering what if. Shangguan knew that if the guide's mental power did not fully recover, he would remain in that state indefinitely, which would be what a wonderful expression. Not long after, he then came to the secret room and found Yao Yao's head covered with Shangguan's clothes. Immediately sneered with a cheap smile. Busy? Are you? Shangguan's face was anxious. Yao Yao, sick, help me treat it. Bai Waking remained unmoved, still casually staying near Yao Yao, pacing back and forth. Oh, dear, she's sick. How can we not let the doctor examine her condition if she's sick? With that, he yanked open the black uniform jacket covering Yao Yao's head. He was determined to get a good look at this one. What does the guide look like? Dazed, Yao Yao was awakened by a sudden beam of light, only to see a 19-pack abs. The man stood before me, but his upturned eyes were filled with mischief, even carrying a hint of malice, as if looking at what kind of disgraceful piece of good she was. This made Yao Yao abruptly change her expression. Her body, her limbs were forcibly awakened, pressing down on the man's neck at an extremely fast speed. Although her face was flushed with anger, her eyes Zhejiang was filled with unprecedented vigilance and sharpness. Who are you? Where is my comrade Shangguan? Bai Waking's throat was pressed by Yao Yao with considerable force, his voice too hoarse to make a sound. The cheeks were also turning redder from suffocation, yet the pair of eyes stubbornly refused to blink as they gazed at Yao Yao. The moment the hood was removed, Bai Waking saw Yao Yao's face, an exquisitely beautiful but pale and haggard one. The weak, flushed face he truly looked down upon, but the moment those eyes opened, he was stunned, and in the blink of an eye, he was pinned down firmly, with the guide accurately pressing on his throat, stirring his heart. Dirty little deer-like heart pounding. However, unfortunately, Yao hadn't yet managed to ask for a clear answer when her mental energy once again. The unsupported body went limp, about to collapse onto Bai Waking when he noticed Yao Yao's change. Bai Waking, the fingers twitched slightly, already prepared to hold Yao Yao, yet the next moment, Shangguan's long arm swept around, pulling. Yao Yao was solidly pulled into his embrace, his possessiveness running rampant as he tightly wrapped his arms around Yao Yao's waist. Warily looking at Bai Waking, you should treat Yao Yao now. In an instant, Bai Waking understood. Why would Shangguan rather choose to be enemies with the three strongest sentinels, even if it means cutting off his friendship with him? Yes, it is also to protect Yao Yao because their guide is different from any other guide. Her eyes sparkling like stars. More importantly, such a powerful guide can enhance their combat power too. a step up from all previous guides who were all delicate and useless. It really made him unable to muster any interest, let alone. After binding, one is supposed to submit to the other, but the girl before me is worth any sentinel risking their life on the battlefield. Entrusted out by Waking chuckled twice, rising a strong desire to be with her since you want me to treat our guide, shouldn't you? Put her down so I can examine her, isn't that right? Shangguan clenched his fist, still aware of the change in Bai Weiking's attitude, but now he did not know what's wrong with Yao Yao. She can only rely on Bai Weiking's medical skills, and Bai Weiking is deliberately not telling the truth. Come, smiling as he watched Shangguan move. If it were said before, he would do this because he wanted to see Shangguan's expression. But now he only wants to get closer to this powerful and beautiful guide. Shangguan, forced to have no. Nadia placed the Yao Yao in her arms onto the chair. Bai Weiking's eyes flickered. Don't worry, it's just the guide's growth period, only a dose of medicine is needed to get through it. Growth period? Shangguan heard for the first time that guides also had a growth period. That's right, Bai Weiking blinked. Directly lying, every guide over 18 years old will enter a growth period, and it can be safely passed with just medication. However, the guide's growth period condition is even more unstable. Just uncertain about the timing. After saying that, he took out as the pale blue potion was injected. In reality, it's just a nutrient solution to replenish mental energy. Bai Weiking said with a smile, it's best to let her rest more, probably for about 10 days or so. Not blushing or panting for having told such a colossal lie, nor even realizing that he merely wanted to delay the time Chang spent with the guide. Otherwise, given Shangguan's current temper, would surely have him blasted to kneeling on the ground and refusing to get up at this moment. Shangguan coldly blocked the distance between Bai Weiking and Yao. Yao, you can leave. Bai Weiking let out a contemptuous low laugh. Shangguan, you're speedin', driving people away is rather. Isn't this a bit too fast? He remained motionless, his face clearly written with a few big words. I'm not leaving. Shangguan's cold and stern expression grew even more frigid. Things were indeed developing in the direction he least wanted to see. Gone. Bai Weiking, you should leave now. Shangguan's tone became more forceful, but Bai Weiking, he didn't speak, just looked at him with a beaming smile. Shangguan's eyebrows were tightly knit, not understanding what this was about. What it meant he would know the next moment. With a soft moan, Yao Yao groggily opened her eyes. She clearly saw the figure beside her. What was he doing? Standing next to her, however, the one opposite Shangguan seemed. It's that guy who harbors an extraordinary malice towards her. You. Yao Yao sprang to her feet. Get up, wanting to approach and ask again, but who knew that? After taking just half a step, both legs became so weak they almost falling down. Bai Weiking had been waiting for precisely this moment. With quick eyes and swift hands, he seized Yao Yao's arms a step ahead of Shangguan, effortlessly pulling Yao Yao's body close without the slightest hint of ambiguity, but with openness and honesty. Zheng Die approached Yao Yao with a gentle smile and said, don't move around, you are still in a weak state right now. What? Yao Yao felt dizzy looking at this person, whose expression changed so quickly, feeling only puzzled. Yes, Bai Weiking was about to continue, but Shangguan, having reacted, interrupted him quite unhappily. He said, Dr. Bai, you can let her sit on the chair to rest now. His murderous aura was particularly heavy today. Before, Yao Yao was clearly his alone, but because of a mission, Yao Yao not only had a traces that did not belong to him appeared, and even by his side, there was now the sentinel who had never cared for Yao Yao. All right, Bai Weiking said with a playful grin as he helped Yao Yao into the chair. It seemed Shangguan the guy is deeply in love with his guide, but it's a pity that the guide was never his alone to begin with. Still mine. Bai Weiking. At this moment, Yao Yao couldn't care about the other. Dr. Bai, what exactly is wrong with my body? What's going on? Don't worry, Bai Weiking chuckled softly. I've already injected you with the medicine. Next you just need to rest for 10 days and it'll be fine. But unexpectedly, Yao Yao was very dissatisfied. Rest for 10 days? Then wouldn't Shangguan and I be unable to train and adapt to each other? Previously, we failed to kill that SS level Grey. Her warlike spirit is intensely fierce. Any opponent who dares to stand before her must be made to die so thoroughly that she can never rise again. This one. Bai Wei swallowed lightly. What surfaced in his mind was Yao Yao's swift, wine-like speed. This kind of guide It's really good. He also wanted to see more and then said, without blushing or his heart racing, although you cannot, using spiritual power, but normal physical training will not have any obstacles. That's great. Yao Yao heard this, looking at Shangguan, her eyes brimming with eager excitement. She wants to engage Shangguan in hand-to-hand combat to confront him. Go ahead and try, Bai Weiqing said gently upon seeing this. You can now utilize the power of your body. Shangguan watched intently. Yao Yao became increasingly happy because of what Bai Weiqing said, although she knew Yao Yao had not the slightest interest. The content was nothing more than normal doctor-patient communication, yet he felt extremely unhappy to the core. Yao Yao's smile is very beautiful, but now there's one more Sentinel who has seen it, and he will still be bound to Yao Yao. Sentinel Shangguan knew that, at this moment, Bai Weiqing probably only regretted not having bound herself to Yao Yao earlier. At this moment, Yao Yao patted Shangguan's chest. Come on, let's fight. Shangguan's lips tightened coldly. I simply don't want to fight. Yao Yao, his pent-up anger roils inside, and all he can think about is the next moment. With a bang, the fist struck Bai Weiqing's face. Yao Yao was stunned, staring in disbelief. Before his eyes, Bai Weiqing's handsome face instantly turned bruised, and blood seeped from the corner of his lips, yet he showed no anger. Hey, you can't handle even this. At those words, a flash of jealousy hardened in Shangguan's eyes. The flames directly rushed towards Bai Weiqing, but instead of dodging, she watched as if enjoying a show. Went up to meet them. Ha ha ha, his guide is called Yao Yao, right? What a beautiful name. Yao Yao. Yao he, such a good Yao. Yao, such a unique Yao. Yao, how could Shangguan keep her all to himself? Joy and possess the two style and method of attack instantly caught Yao Yao's eye. She carefully observing Shangguan's attacks. They are fast, precise, and ruthless, although his movements carry a sense of venting. It is not hard to see that his every move is still a cold judgment, and although this Dr. Bai is all smiles, but it can be seen that he was somewhat strained in meeting Shangguan's attack, and finally, Bai Wei was slightly at a disadvantage. Shangguan seized the moment, pressing Bai Wei to the ground and punching him again and again. Yao Yao watched, eyes red with killing intent. Shangguan finally realized something was wrong. If this fight continues, Shangguan will beat this Dr. Bai too. The beaten Shangguan, stop hitting, Yao Yao hurriedly shouted upon. Hearing this, Shangguan obediently let his hands hang down weakly. The light in his eyes dimmed, becoming somewhat dejected. Yao Yao was very puzzled. What was going on with Shangguan? Ha ha ha, Bai Weiqing, beaten beyond recognition, instead couldn't stop laughing. An extremely pleasant voice whispered into Yao Yao's ear, forgot to say, my dear guide, I am one of your 4 sentinels. A top for interstellar sentinel. Bai Weiqing. Yao suddenly realized, no wonder Shangguan would said. It seemed Shangguan's sudden, strange behavior was all due to jealousy and possessiveness. She stepped forward and said firmly, don't worry. You to me, it is an irreplaceable comrade in arms, though I do not know why this sentinel named Bai Weiqing suddenly appeared in this, but Shangguan was always different to her. He was her first comrade in this world, also unconditionally trusted her and fought alongside her. Comrade. Shangguan's breathing became slightly disordered, lowering. Her head slowly lifted, looking into Yao Yao's beautiful eyes. Yao Yao said she was irreplaceable, Shangguan thought to himself, overflowing with sweet fate. Good, finally willing to let Bai Weiqing go, stood beside Yao Yao, but Bai Weiqing on the ground, but unwilling to get up. Why does he feel that such a trick of watching the play, he suddenly doesn't want to watch it now? The time has already reached 6 o'clock in the evening. Shangguan looked over gently. Yao Yao, you've been hungry all day. Evening. What would you like to eat? Let me think. Yao Yao pondered, the two of them completely forgetting that there was still someone on the ground. A pale Wei lightly forced a smile and sat up, an uncomfortable feeling lying across his heart. Yao Yao, don't forget, you go with me to the binding station to complete the spiritual binding, and also Shangguan, if you're going to cook, don't forget adding my share. Bai Weiqing said, casually, appearing utterly indifferent. But Shangguan knew better. He cared. And he cared a lot. Yao Yao pressed a hand to her forehead and sighed, let's just take care of your injuries first. If you can do it, I'll go with you to bind it. I'll handle it right away. Upon hearing this, Bai Weiqing sprang to his feet, his entire body. The wound actually disappeared in the blink of an eye. After applying the medicine, Shangguan lifted his chin unconcerned, thinking that Bai Weiqing still doesn't know his position in Yao Yao's heart will never compare to mine, Shangguan's whirl. Immediately full of a sense of security, speaking softly to Yao Yao, since you are going to go with by waking to the binding, then I'll go home first to cook for you. Saying, she very virtuously tittied up Yao Yao's messy hair strand. Yao Yao nodded, already in the old married couple mode with Shangguan, said, I want to eat spicy food. Stir-fried pepper with meat is so. Shangguan's expression softened as she gently ruffled Yao Yao's hair, then turned and left, not eating a bit. Bai Weiking's jealous appearance was not like this, which left Bai Weiking utterly stunned. In the past, the military had always been lofty and immensely authoritative. When did the school chief become like this? At this moment, Bai Weiking was completely unaware. He was clearly acting out of jealousy. Then Bai Weiking intentionally lowered his voice, making it sound deeper and more magnetic. Kingly Yao Yao, we can go now. Okay. Only then did Yao Yao snap out of her daze, reluctantly taking one last look at her Sarun. The training chamber behind looks really nice, with all sorts of weapons from this world and the small mecha really looking forward to the spiritual combat running in 10 days. Yao Yao thought to herself. I simply didn't notice how different Bai Weiking's voice was from just a moment ago, nor did I notice Bai Wei, seeing how indifferent she was, how heartbroken. Bai Weiking was simply puzzled to death. Why Yao? It doesn't seem like she's attracted to him at all. He's trying his hardest to get her attention, but she just didn't react at all. It was like casting amorous glances at a blind man, wasn't it? By now, the people outside had already. It's already very few, only scattered guides. And their sentinel Bai Weiking's figure appears. It instantly caught the attention of many people. Everyone in the city center knew they had 4 of the strongest sentinels, but only Shangguan and Bai Weiking are visible. The identities of the other 2 are utterly mysterious. As soon as Bai Weiking appeared, he immediately caught the attention of all the guides and sentinels. Bai Weiking is just too handsome. Alas, why isn't such a handsome sentinel mine? The one by Bai Weiking's side is quite good looking and quite pretty. Could it be that guide Yao? Yao, damn, didn't the male god Weiking kill her? The noisy chatter drilled into Bai Weiking's ears, and he immediately looked at Yao Yao in a flustered manner. From the very beginning, he indeed. It was with the intention of killing Yao Yao and even having already taken action, but it was unsuccessful. All of this was before. Yao Yao looked over in confusion, and the moment her eyes met his uneasy gaze, she knew exactly what he was thinking. Hey. Yao Yao waved her hand, not minding at all. I know besides Shangguan, the other 3 of you are. The soldier wanted to kill me, she said, smiling nonchalantly. If you change your mind and want to kill me, She was ready anytime, her eyes shimmering with a thirst for battle. Bai Weiking was a highly skilled medical doctor and a powerful SSS level sentinel. Should be a very challenging opponent. Thinking of this, Yao Yao turned her head with a smile. Really, what do you? You can change your mind at any time. Yet she closed her mouth the next moment, for no other reason than because of Bai Weiking. That look in his eyes is too terrifying. His pupils are gathering a dark light capable of destroying heaven and earth. Those eyes are filled with. Yes, it is to prevent Yao Yao from ever again uttering words like she changed her mind about being bound to him and killed him. To Yao Yao, it's nothing out of the ordinary, but to Bai Weiking, it's an insult to his feelings for Yao Yao. Insulting his only once moved heart, and liking Bai Weiking does not know why he is so angry. But after hearing Yao Yao say those words indifferently, all his emotions vanished. There was only fire left inside, but in the end, he just silently lowered his head, somewhat pitifully leaning close to Yao Yao. His Chang's hands grabbed the hem of Yao Yao's shirt. Aggrievely, don't say such things anymore, Bai Weiking. The heart is swaying. The earlier anger vanished in an instant because he remembered it was him who first let Yao Yao. The one with such thoughts is him. It's his paranoia and prejudice from the very beginning making her only have the thought of killing Yao Yao. Even if today I agree with Shangguan's words to treat Yao Yao, it's only because I want to see. Yao Yao, who had the liveliest thoughts, was the least qualified to be angry. Bai Weiking's voice trembled as he pleaded, yet the next. The beauty in front of the carving smiled and said, no. Although I don't know why you feel uneasy, everything I said is true. Seriously, I won't forcefully insist on binding with you, nor will I truly fight with you to the death. Live, just want to have a relatively pure fight with you. Yao Yao's eyes gave rise to Bai Weiking's extreme. The power she liked, saying she extended her right hand, but if you decide to bind with me, I won't oppose it either. On the contrary, having such a strong comrade like you join my team would make me very happy. Bai Weiqing listened to Yao's gentle yet exceptionally powerful words as if there were bursts of fireworks blooming inside. His ears blossomed, his eyes and heart were filled with Yao's confident and gentle smile, something he had never in any guide seen before. Bai Weiqing extended his broad palm and grasped Yao's right hand. I am deeply fascinated by her words, by her entire being. I want to become your comrade in arms, and between the two of us. The interaction allowed all the guides and sentinels who were paying attention to them to see everything clearly, and immediately the news spread throughout the city. Bai Shuanger, who was training in the secret chamber, naturally received this news as well. Her gaze was icy and ruthless. Her brother's heart, she can't control it, but she can cooperate with the two other strongest sentinels who also want to kill Yao. Let them kill Yao. At this moment, Bai Shuanger's cold eyes were extremely gloomy. Brother, since you cannot give your heart, give it to me. I can only kill the one who stole your heart. On the other side, to hurry to the binding place. On the road, Bai Weiqing suddenly shielded Yao with a whoosh. Who is it? The next moment, 5 unbound S-glass sentinels appearing before his eyes. Bai Weiqing panicked at the sight. For the first time resenting his former self, he was Shangguan, beaten to the point where he is now completely powerless to resist. It has also prevented his Yao from being able to display even a shred of mental strength. And just as he was planning to desperately hold them back to let Yao escape, who would have thought that Yao curled the corner of her mouth and said, "You are SS level sentinel. Physical strength should be quite good, right?" Without understanding why, Bai Weiqing found someone in his arms the next moment. The person whose neck was encircled by the snow-white, lotus root-like arm made Bai Weiqing's heart pound, wildly wishing to feel this forever. That tenderness was interrupted the next moment by Yao's voice. "What are you spacing out for? Run!" Bai Weiqing instantly running at full speed, he laughed heartily, never having been so happy before, heading towards the freedom of the 5 sentinels behind the villa at Ku Lingyao Dong, where Shangguan was located, looked at each other and finally turned their gaze towards the figure emerging from the shadows. The underground sentinel king emerged just to see if this guide was easy to kill, planning to night. As the order was carried out, the other 5 lowered their heads in agreement. However, on the other side, Bai Weiqing had already arrived at the Lingyao Cave villa. Yet he still couldn't bear to let go of the arms holding Yao. He felt the soft body in his embrace, only sensing, "So happy I'm bubbling up." It turns out the feeling of being with someone you like is this good. He's as tender as water. Looking at Yao, about to confess, who knew the next moment a stern shout came from Bai Weiqing, which made Yao have no choice but to let go. After the beloved Yao in his arms left, Shangguan lowered his voice, his tone filled only with danger and terror. "Yao, her thoughts are very pure, devoid of the lowly personal sentiments that you and I possess. If you dare to be presumptuous with her, say what disturbed her. I don't mind killing you." Shangguan's eyes flashed with a fleeting, crimson, malevolent light. Bai Weiqing's heart skipped a beat, knowing he was serious. Shangguan loves Yao so deeply, it's just a pity the feelings for Yao are a selfish kind of affection, only wishing to happily get close to Yao for my own happiness. Those such words he certainly wouldn't dare to say it out loud. Shangguan, that monster who could even suppress his own affection, might just he really killed him. After night fell, Yao slept extremely soundly, as if she had completely taken to heart what Bai Weiqing had said. Rest was heard on the other end, but Bai Weiqing, lying on the bed, could not fall asleep no matter what. Twisting her body, a pair of broad, bony hands covered her face, afraid of the smile on her countenance. The capacity can overflow. Yao. He laughs and murmurs over and over again that he is SSS level sentinel. Originally should have been an outstanding sentinel who could participate in combat, but he did not because he detected by the terminal as a psychologically twisted sentinel with an extreme craving for intimate relationships, so he was termina. He was assigned to be a doctor. He worked hard to treat people and study medicine for no other reason than because he was that. The biggest patient, Bai Weiqing, finally couldn't bear it any longer and took out a crimson red pill from his pocket. No one knows that sentinels and guides can briefly appear before people in the form of spiritual animals. just by using the pills he researched through countless sleepless nights caused by his psychological distortion. It can be done. The next moment, by waking, fell into a deep sleep. At the same time, a snake as thick as a grown man's forearm appeared. Before long, he arrived beside Yao Yao's bed, taking advantage of Shangguan keeping watch on the first floor unnoticed by anyone. He extended to forked tongues, licking at the pulse on Yao Yao's slender neck, causing the sleeping Yao Yao to instantly frowning. It was completely different from the last time Qin Moxiao bit down and licked. She felt a sinister. The cold was terrifying. The next moment, Yao Yao opened her eyes, looking into the shadows. Who are you? The figure stood within the shadows. On the ferocious face, there was only killing intent. I didn't expect you to not be affected by my knockout drug. Yao Yao then realized the entire building. The villa was deathly silent, but it was clear that both Shangguan and Bai Weiqing had fallen into the trap. Yet a faint smile appeared on her face. A smile appears. It seems you are the sentinel who wants to kill me. Although she cannot use psychic power, her strongest trait is, come on, it's all my own spatial ability. The next moment, two pistols appeared in her hands and then she smiled evilly. Looking at Cheng Li, it's unclear whether her gun is faster or his psychic attack is faster. Cheng Li simply didn't see clearly what Yao Yao was holding in her hand. Having witnessed her jumping into Bai Weiqing's arms and running away, Cheng Li, she only thought she was unbeatable in killing until that thing effortlessly smashed the high-priced lightsaber she had acquired. Cheng Li stared at the light sword on the ground, nearly shattered into dust, and was stunned. What is this thing? And Yao Yao was. With a tilted head and a smile, he pressed the gun muzzle against his throat. Losing focus during a life-or-death battle is a major taboo. Yao Yao's delicate face blazed with a piercing light, the upturned corners of her lips resembling a flickering flame. He effortlessly ignited the heart of Cheng Li. His Adam's apple bobbed up and down, never having thought a guide could be like this. On the other side, in Bai Weiqing's bedroom, the confused Bai Weiqing was still in her dream, fantasizing about herself. The scene of transforming into a spirit animal and becoming entangled with Yao Yao was, in reality, something he had never actually managed to research. Such drugs, not to mention turning into spiritual animals. And Yao Yao entwined on the first floor, mentally deranged. Shangguan was still vigilantly staring into the air, unaware that Qin Moxiao was sitting opposite him, looking at him with disdain. He is a complete traitor, so what if he is the best guide? No one can compare. Passing by his beloved, thinking of this, a dagger condensed with spiritual power appeared, heading straight toward Shangguan's heart and stabbing. Upstairs in the bedroom, Cheng Li's Adam's apple bobbed, his eyes utterly filled with nothing but Yao Yao's image. You, what is that weapon in your hand? Cheng Li said fiercely, yet his mind had long since wandered off. He had already finished speaking before Yao Yao's weapon was even mentioned, and now he felt a bit annoyed. He had clearly wanted to ask about how on earth is she so good-looking. This made Yao Yao move a few steps closer. What's going on with this sentry? Just now you were still fierce and menacing. Why suddenly change the subject? Cheng Li noticed Yao Yao leaning in near. The heart is pounding faster. She's getting closer to me. She's looking at me. Cheng Li is getting shy. His face was flushed, so red it seemed as if blood could drip from it, and his ears were even redder, like ripe tomatoes. He simply didn't dare look at Yao Yao any longer. But a little thought sprouted in the heart. If she were to die instantly in her hands right now, he was also willing. Yao Yao noticed that the other party had lost the will to fight and immediately put away the pistol. How disappointing. I would never kill a person without the will to fight. But Cheng Li really wants to say, if only I could again. If he gets close again, he can continue fighting with her. But just looking at Yao Yao's beautiful face, I just couldn't bring myself to say the words to fight her. She was just too beautiful. If only I could let her touch me. Just touch my head. Cheng Li glanced at Yao Yao's hand holding the pistol, his thoughts strange and absurd. However, Yao Yao thought it was because they were curious about her weapon, so she immediately coughed twice, blushing, and said, I'm in the ghost. In the woods, accidentally discovered. Haha, very lucky, right? Who knew? Cheng Li didn't listen to what he said at all. A pair of all eyes were drawn to Yao Yao. Can you pat my head? What? Yao Yao was instantly baffled. But when she blinked again, the sentinel who had just been desperate to kill her moments ago was now bending over His furry head was brought suddenly before her when a violent commotion from downstairs caught her attention. Yao Yao's attention, her face suddenly changed. What happened downstairs? Hearing this, Chang Li said with a smile. Nothing much, just another SSS glass sentry killing the guy on night watch on the first floor, that's all. Yao anger instantly flashed in his eyes. So you're not just here to kill me tonight. Chang Li discovered that Yao Yao seemed to be alive. Angry but still innocently told my original plan, I used the mist to separate you. They are mesmerized, then each one kills, saying with a slight pout and a bit of grievance, Yao Yao, you won't. Are you angry with me? Chang Li said with an innocent and pitiful expression on that outrageously handsome face. You let heart, although my men and another sentinel may be a bit brutal in their methods, I promise after they are dead, I will work with you to decorate our home beautifully. As he spoke further, his voice grew softer, the smaller, because that delicate face seemed to grow redder and redder with anger. Chang Li lowered her head, too embarrassed to continue. Take a look at Yao Yao. Yao Yao is just too beautiful. How can she be so beautiful that one glance makes you feel like your heart is about to burst? Blow it up. Luckily Yao Yao didn't look at her, otherwise her heart definitely wouldn't have been able to take it. But just at that moment, Yao Yao turned around and looked over, the murderous intent in her eyes. Undisguised, get your people out of here. But she was already deeply in love. Chang Li was so shy she was almost about to faint, yet she felt not the slightest hint of threatening shyness as she spoke, as if no matter what Yao Yao said at this moment she would agree. Downstairs, Qin Moxiao spat out the bloody foam from his mouth. He looked with disgust at Shang Guan, who was still in a state of confusion. How could this Shang Guan have suddenly gone mad? He never could have imagined that just at the moment when he was about to pierce the other's heart, Shang Guan was instead like suddenly regaining all consciousness. Not only did he dodge with precision, but he also gave him a fierce punch. With a punch full of intense hatred and anger, Shang Guan couldn't see the things around him, much less know where he was, what to do. Yet in his mind, the sole thought of protecting Yao Yao from harm now included 1. Kill that sentinel who bit Yao Yao's neck. Kill him for the bite on Yao Yao's neck. The bite mark was of utmost concern. The lingering, foul spiritual energy had long been etched deeply into his mind, and the very next moment, Shang Guan's movements were as swift as lightning, launching an even fiercer attack on the other side. After being blocked by Yao Yao, Yao Wei threatened Cheng Li, who had already arrived at Bai Weiking's room door, watching the several inside about to deliver a fatal blow. Subordinate, feeling the warm breath that Yao Yao sprayed towards him from behind his waist, he coughed twice with a flushed face. All of you stop, leave here immediately. A few subordinates listened to this gentle, almost coquettish voice. The guide's voice immediately widened their eyes in disbelief. The one making this sound is them. The boss Cheng Li, administered the antidote to Bai Weiking's knockout drug. Yao continued to press him forward. However, Cheng Li, yet some are unwilling. What kind of thing is Bai Weiking? That he can also enjoy Yao Yao's beauty together with her, so want. Bai Weiking died immediately. Only she and Yao Yao were together, but at this moment, Yao Yao was holding my arm. Well, how could she ruin such a wonderful moment? She could only shyly and timidly be in front of Bai Weiking. Some medicinal powder was sprinkled on, and the next moment, Bai Weiking's eyes snapped open. After taking in the situation, he hurriedly Yao Yao pulled behind herself. You are one of the other two sentinels, and Cheng Li's face showed a shy smile. Wrong disappeared the moment Yao Yao left, so what if only the dense, gloomy chill remained? Cheng Li finds Bai Weiking extremely irritating. Since that's the case, then I won't hesitate to kill you. Bai Weiking's face turned cold. It is already clear that this person before me has also developed feelings for Yao Yao, but he is not as selfless as Shang Guan. Later comers must all be killed. The two then started fighting, completely unaware that Yao Yao had already run down. At this moment, Qin Moxiao, who was being frantically attacked, could only feel annoyed that this guy might as well not have been confused attacking. His attacking style is just like a wild dog's, without any pattern, making it impossible for him to defend, and he keeps shouting Yao Yao in his mouth. Yao Yao heard the voice. Qin Moxiao's face showed disdain. What bullshit, Yao Yao, just hearing the name tells you it definitely can't compare. His dear one did not stop until Yao Yao's face appeared from the corner upstairs, revealing Qin Maxiao's wildly exuberant expression. The smile suddenly froze on his face as he slowly came to realize a fact: his dear, his one and only, straight deep love dear is precisely that terminal, forcibly assigned to him, guide more importantly his. Before meeting himself in the ghost-crying forest, he had already bonded with that sentinel. Thinking of this, he looked into Shangguan's eyes, instantly filled with even more intense disgust. He found his dear Shangguan, who actually failed to protect her. If it weren't for his accidental discovery, his dear might have died long ago. Qin Maxiao's face showed an even stronger sense of mockery. Shangguan, oh Shangguan, if you're so useless, then why'd I up the guide? Yao looked at the unfamiliar Qin Maxiao, realizing he held no hostility toward her. Afterwards, she wanted to stop the two of them, but found she simply couldn't intervene because Shangguan was ferocious and ruthless at this moment. This was even more violent than the time he almost beat by waking to death. She had to find a way to stop them right. At this moment, a glimmer of light flashed in Yao's eyes and she quietly retreated from inside the villa, quickly disappearing from the ento. She pulled out a grenade from the space around her body. Although she had lived in this villa for less than 2 days, in order to make them stop, she could only resort to this last resort. Boom! With a deafening roar that shook the heavens and earth, the city, the heart of every household in the center, trembled 3 times, and the Zuling Yao cave villa also under Yao's gaze. With a thunderous collapse, yet no one knew at the very moment Yao pulled the grenade from her personal space. Then, the high-level members, hidden in the dark corners of the city center, uniformly grew excited, their minds all rising. An idea sprang up: eat it, and they could directly upgrade to their final form. At that moment, the battle inside the villa stopped. Qin Maxiao was the first to speak. Darling, do you still remember me? In the ghost-crying forest, I saved you and was with you. Right then, Shangguan's angry, scolding sounded. Qin Maxiao. At this moment, the fog was blasted away and his mind had already recovered. Yao still didn't understand what was happening. By waking also came up to join in. He doesn't like Yao talking to any sentinel. Yao, by waking. Just as one shout was heard, Cheng Li, not to be outdone, also shouted out, wanting to secure a place for herself in the midst of it. For sentinels make a scene, the clamorous noise preventing Yao from getting a word in. She finally could no longer suppress her anger and said, "All of you stop for me." Yao was extremely irritable at this moment. After all, the back and forth. In the end, the fight didn't even happen. I didn't even get a proper rest. All that fussing around ended up forcing her to blow up the villa. You weren't for 3 days. Inside, no one is allowed to see my Yao. Furious, she turned and walked away. The first sentinels, who had just been lost in their own thoughts instantly because Yao's words flustered the mind, the other 3 sentinels uniformly stepped forward to chase after Yao, but Shangguan stood in place. The ground did not move, not because he did not want to meet Yao, but because he felt he truly had not. Face to face with Yao, Shangguan fell silent, a sorrowful emotion spreading far and wide in his eyes. But the other 3, without this tormenting thought, Qin Maxiao reigned in his wild and unrestrained wickedness and began to plead, "My dear, I finally found you. How can you just turn and leave?" Cheng Li, on the verge of tears, gazed at Yao. Yao, you may not like me, but you can't just abandon me by waking is even more direct. Yao, I like you. I fell in love with you the first time we met. You cannot make me not see you. 3, each harboring intense his emotions, wanting to make the person in front of him stay. Yet the next moment, Yao's actions made the 3 of them unanimously. The ground stood still and 3 consecutive slapping sounds rang out. It turned out that Yao had slapped all 3 of them in one go. Cheng Li was the first to snap back to reality clearly. Her cheek was hot, swollen, and red from the slap, yet on it the tingling sensation made Cheng Li feel an unprecedented joy and pleasure. Yao gave him a slap in the face. Yao's hand is fragrant. When it swung over, it even carried a fragrant breeze. Yao is so beautiful next to Cheng Li. Bai Weiking's cheek was burning with pain. He couldn't believe it as he looked at Yao. Just because of his confession did Yao get? Then what about his confession? His heart full of joy. What does it count for? Qin Maxiao, who had also been slapped, was stunned for a moment, then a dangerous smile began to seep out. Dangerous smile. Yao always gives him surprises. But the next moment his face sinks again. Yao is a bit too too careless about him even when giving him a slap. It is also given to him along with the other two at the same time. Why can't we just give her a slap alone? However, Yao Yao had no idea what they were thinking. She was so angry that she could only glare at the pile of Vela ruins. This is the care you speak of, the affection you claim. Yes, what you said cannot be without you. The affection you speak of is precisely what forces me to blow up the villa. Coming to clean up the mess you've made for so-called feelings. Yao Yao turned around in anger and left directly. Leave. However, this time, the three did not chase. After again, they did not realize their mistake, but they all realized one thing in unison: if they continued to chase after him, then Yao this time would give him. It will no longer be just simple slaps for them, but they will truly be utterly abandoned at this moment. All residents in that city center received a message that only guide a district is inhabited. A villa collapsed without leaving even a shadow outside. The villa in Area B by Schwanger's face was full of smugness. It looks like the boss of that underground black factory killed Yao Yao, so her brother remains her white knight. The child squinted with extreme pleasure, completely unaware that Yao Yao wasn't dead at all. On the other side, Yao Yao was furious. She walked to the corner of the area, found an unmanned place to set up a tent, and soon fell asleep, feeling extremely depressed. Little did they know that the act of taking things out of the personal space several times had already attracted an unknown number of hidden figures. At this moment in the outside world, 1, 2, countless SS glass hui and several others densely packed SS level hui crawled towards Yao Yao inside the tent. Yao Yao, who knew little about this world, was Ru. I never thought that she, whose spiritual power had completely fallen into slumber, would be able to detect the pitter-patter of hui, the spiritual entity. The saliva of each hui crazily smashed onto the ground. They silently growled, each one. They all look into each other's eyes, which are filled with the meaning of competitors, all their beaks lunging forward in unison, trying to. Yao Yao's tent collapsed, and as it was about to crush Yao Yao inside into pieces, the moon in the sky erupted. A bright light shone out, and at this moment, the moonlight spilled onto the ground. Before the tent appeared an extremely handsome, angry man. He was wearing an off-white suit, his entire body emitting a faint glow because of the moonlight. Pale white, he calmly looked at the group of beaks, watching covetously, but that pack which had just been baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. The claw's beak, for some reason, was extremely terrified of a man who seemed to pose no threat at all. And afraid, one by one, they all lay on the ground, showing expressions of fear. Gong Hao chuckled softly. Let's leave quickly while I'm not angry yet. The roar had an SSS level, beak staring unwillingly. Yao Yao inside the tent, saliva still continuously secreting. Gong Hao's brow twitched lightly. The next instant, that one SSS glass beak turned into a pool of flesh and blood, rotten and scattered on the ground. The other beaks shuddered, then abruptly turned around. The ground wildly fled. Gong Hao then elegantly continued to smile and afterward opened the tent to enter it. The slender, long arm reached out, gently stroking Yao Yao's cheek. Tell me, what exactly is inside this head of yours? What kind of thing is installed at the bottom? An extremely magnetic and soft, elegant voice sounded Yao Yao's plump rear. He couldn't get enough of the back of her head, but what he loved even more was what was inside Yao Yao's mind those few times. 3 times produced intense spiritual sensations and a sense of space beyond this world. I really want to take your brain. Open it up, take a good look at that thing hidden inside your brain, Gong Hao said, as if caressing, just like my own, beloved, gentle and softly. Laughing, from now on, you are mine. You must never let anyone touch you. As he spoke, a drop of blood flew from his fingertip and quickly merged into. At the next moment, inside Yao Yao's body, a faint moonlight-colored mark flashed briefly on Yao Yao's forehead. Upon seeing the contract established, Gong Hao finally smiled with satisfaction. But at that moment, the moon's luster dimmed and he should. Back he went. Gong Hao helplessly rose to his feet. Baby, I'm leaving. I believe we'll see each other again very soon. As the figure vanished in an instant, Yao Yao, who was deeply asleep due to Gong Hao's methods, now tightly furrowed her brow. Between the eyebrows, I only felt a certain place deep within my soul itching intensely, as if there were something there. The next day, after forcefully squeezing into her soul to transform her soul into another person's private possession, morning, Yao Yao frowned strangely, feeling as if she had been fighting with someone all night, last night, without knowing who it was. But she clearly remembered that she had just simply slept. For a while, it's really strange, Yao Yao couldn't figure it out. Simply gave up thinking and all the way followed towards the Sentinel Military Academy. Yet on the road, the guides who saw her were extremely shocked because just last night there were still rumors that this SSS class guide from that slums was being targeted by other. The sound of the Sentinel being killed. Together for a moment the information explosion among the guides once again brought the news that Yao Yao is still alive. The matter was spread far and wide. And the first to be angered was that Liu Yaoju, who couldn't sleep for joy upon learning that Yao Yao had died. She angrily kicked the Sentinel Chen Wei, who was kneeling before her in the body. Chen Wei was kicked. His entire body trembled, his face turned pale, and the pain caused his cheeks to twitch uncontrollably, yet he didn't even dare to let out a muffled groan because he knew that if he showed the slightest expression of pain, it would only bring about that is Liu Yaoju's even more ruthless whipping. Liu Yaoju panted heavily, looking at Chen Wei like this. The fire did not increase but rather decreased, a waste just like Li Tianyang. That guy was dumped by me last night at the Sentinel Military Academy. Tied to a tree, might very well freeze to death alive tonight. Could you possibly also want to be like him? Chen Wei trembled, swallowing the blood foam in his mouth. I was wrong, I won't dare again. His heart was as cold as a winter sky. Tianyang had clearly done nothing, merely comforted her yesterday. He was forcibly restrained from using his spiritual power and tied to a hidden tree. How is Tianyang doing now? And on the other side, Yao was looking at Li Tianyang in astonishment. The sentinels of this world aren't supposed to be able to leave. Open the guide one step. How come this sentinel is still tied up here? At this moment, he has fainted from the cold of the night. The past Li Tianyang's face was pale without a trace of color, yet Yao Yao detected that he still had faint breaths. Huff, she hurriedly let go of it, then pulled out a pill from the space and fed it into his mouth. Before long, Li Tianyang's eyelashes trembled lightly as he opened his eyes, and the first thing that met his gaze was Yao's exquisitely beautiful face, yet he was terrified the moment he saw these features. Yaoju, I was wrong, please don't. I'll stay here. Upon hearing this, Yao suddenly felt a flicker of interest. Liu Yaoju, she seemed to know how to come. A thrilling and satisfying fight ensued, so she completely ignored Li Tianyang's struggles and directly carried him towards last time in the training room because he bumped into Shangguan holding Yao. The brooding adjutant Zhuang looked on. This scene stunned him, and upon looking around, everyone was holding their ID cards and sending messages. He knew now this news must have already reached Shangguan's ears. On the other side, Shangguan remained silent for a long time. Looking at the identity card in his hand, his face darkened. The other three, upon seeing the villa sentries, immediately stopped. Qin Maxiao's veins on the back of his hand were throbbing wildly. Shangguan, is this what you meant by letting us pretend? Making up a good way to make Yao believe we have a harmonious relationship? Chang Li couldn't bear this blow even more. Yao doesn't want me anymore. She went to find other obedient and well-behaved sentinels. Qin Maxiao's eyes fierce and ruthless. I'll go kill that sentinel Chang Li who was taken away by my dear one. Seeing this, a glint flickered in his eyes. Following behind, taking advantage of Qin Maxiao killing that sentry to kidnap Yao, my waking glanced sideways, looking at Qin Maxiao and Chang Li. What I really think in my heart is that I want to kill them both together. Clearly, I was the first to. They are the ones who should have fallen for each other. So why are they so excited? Even Shangguan has finally no longer suppressing the jealousy and filth in my heart. I have a way, 3 minds, each with different thoughts. The sentinels all stopped in their tracks the moment Shangguan finished speaking, and the 3 sentinels' eyes lit up in unison. On the other side, Yao revealed a brilliant smile. Send a message to your guide. He found out that after being alone with you here, I won't be angry with you anymore. Soon, the message received a reply. Wait, 2 simple words were enough to see Liu Yaoju's anger. Yao stretched contentedly. Finally, the long-awaited battle is about to begin. She smiled with immense joy. Li Tianyang felt a surge of excitement rising within him. A strange feeling, ultimately hesitating to speak up. The 4 sentinels besides me are no simple matter. You, without a sentinel fighting alongside, I'm afraid I wouldn't survive. A sentinel hearing this, a look appeared on Yao's face. A hint of anger, the most lethal thing on the battlefield. is a soldier who disobeys orders. Soon the two sides met. Liu Yaoju glared at Li Tianyang angrily, his eyes filled only with rage and resentment. Li Tianyang was so useless. Thing saved by whom would have been fine, but it had to be Yao Yao, whom she detested the most, who saved what was already filthy and foul. Things, now even more foul, immediately rushed in and gave Li Tianyang a fierce slap to suffer. Overnight frostbitten, Li Tianyang's body immediately lost control and fell to the ground. Liu Yaoju curled his lips in a sinister manner, laughing, take him down, as if she had already seen Yao Yao being killed by her for Sentinels in unison. On one side of the scene, Li Tianyang stood with a pale face. He had no feelings for Yao Yao, yet he couldn't help but. The residents did not want Yao Yao to die, yet the next moment a shocking scene appeared. Yao Yao alone, just straight. He blocked everyone's attacks. Liu Yaoju widened his eyes. How is this possible? How can this be? Master Liu absolutely did not believe that Yao Yao alone could withstand the attacks of her for Sentinels. Qianyang's heart began to thump wildly in an instant, watching Yao Yao's figure, sharp and clean, moving with unparalleled ease among the four Sentinels. It felt as if something within had been ignited. So, this is what the world is like. The guide on board could also be in such a posture. The next moment, Liu Yaoju angrily shouted, kill them for me. Kill him, kill him. Her psychic power erupted suddenly and simultaneously targeting the four Sentinels bound to her. Pressure too, forcing them to suddenly erupt with psychic power. Li Tianyang was utterly shocked. Yaoju, this has broken through rules, forcibly using her own spiritual power to awaken the spiritual power of the Sentinels bound to her, letting them entering the frenzied period early, launching an attack on Yao Yao. Under such circumstances, Yao Yao simply could be a match for four S-class Sentinels. Don't he? Suddenly stepped forward and pushed Liu Yaoju down, then and Liu Yaoju's back of the head hit a switch, transmitting the scene on site to the city center. On the big screens everywhere, that's specially for those who are curious about the Sentinel Military Academy, allowing outsiders to see inside. On the side of the large screen, displaying the training situation, Liu Yaoju was knocked unconscious while Li Tianyang struggled to get up, only to see Yao Yao already forced into a steady retreat by for Sentinels who had fallen into a frenzied period. Her body and marks of injury had already appeared on her face. Yet she persisted in fighting, still not even using spiritual power at this moment. All the adjutants in the military academy and the residents in the city center were shocked to witness the scene. Some of the Sentinels were captivated by Yao Yao's figure. In their perception, all they needed to do was sit still and command. The guide they fought for could still possess such a powerful team, and in their eyes, they all revealed a look of. In the past, the guides' faces were contorted, extremely displeased. On Bai Shuang'er's elegant countenance, greed appeared like a toad. The same expression, she's curled her lips, suppressing the jealousy in her heart, thinking, brother, how could your heart be so to be taken away by such an ugly woman who jumps around like a toad? She wishes she would just. What a death under the frenzied banner of for S-class Sentinels. A gleam of excitement flickered in Bai Shuang'er's eyes while long since concealed. The soldier Jin Si, who had assumed a false identity to enter the military academy, was now angrily rushing toward the central control room. Inside the central control room at that moment, the adjutants exclaimed in shock, heavens, could this be an SSS level guide? Such a guide I also want to have had. Just at this moment, a cold laugh hidden within the air sounded out. The sound, however, was heard clearly by all the Sentinels, and they almost instantly got goosebumps all over. The commotion that had arisen quieted down, and one by one they slowly turned around immediately, seeing the four they had been looking for. Dare not even think, never before seen the four strongest Sentinels appearing together behind them. The dangerous angle on Qin Maxiao's lips hadn't yet subsided. What were you just talking about? Chang Li asked. Yao Yao blushes shyly in front of you, but don't forget she is the true king of the dungeon. You are the ones who blinded yourselves. Your own eyes, or shall I dig them out one by one? All the Sentinels were panicked, never expecting there would be. It's a good thing Zhuangzi came out just then. Sir, have you come because of your guide? Yao Yao, Shengguan lowered his gaze, let us in. However, Zhuang showed a fearful expression and said, Sir, you know, if it's not time yet, the secret room cannot possibly open for you. The time set for this secret room is 5 hours. What? Shengguan was stunned as he arrived at the screen. Before the curtain, his icy, tense face, upon seeing Yao forced into a corner covered in bloody marks only. There is nervous worry and panic, useless trash. Qin Maxiao glanced at him, then turned and left him to force their way through, and Chang Li had already dashed out faster than Qin Maxiao. He struck with all his might. With a door of extremely high defensive coefficient, a pair of eyes, crimson and bloody, soon the four of them will break through the door, and inside, Yao was performing the most precise calculations and evasions. She would never allow herself to be trapped. Since the opponent has fallen into a frenzy, their movements have become completely chaotic. In that case, she looked at the combat mecha Yao. Yao in the corner licked her lips, her face wearing an expression of extreme excitement. Right at this moment, the door was broken open. The first to rush in was Shangguan, his heart intoxicated beyond measure as he tightly held the injured Yao in his arms. In his arms, Yao looked at the expression on Shangguan's face and did not break free from his embrace. She could see his expression. The feelings hidden within are too different from before. If she casually breaks free from Shangguan, it's highly likely may cause considerable harm to his comrades in arms. On the other side, breaking through the door are Qin Maxiao, Chang Li, and by waking. At the moment the door was broken, what was fixed in his eyes was also Yao Chang, and he was so angry he almost charged straight in. Go ahead and punch Shangguan. Qin Maxiao stopped him with gritted teeth, seething with hatred. If you lay a hand on him now, it will only make our dear one even more annoyed with us. Compared to us, our dear one indeed will not push Shangguan away. Why didn't he choose to bind with his beloved directly? Back then, he fiercely suppressed the jealousy in his heart. Chang Li understood Qin Maxiao's words, yet his jealousy and resentment couldn't help but surge forth, all transforming into the bitterness poured out, gushing forth in torrents. He directed all his fury squarely at those for berserk sentinels. On the other side, holding Yao, Shangguan finally said those words of apology. I'm sorry, Yao. Softly calling his name, Shangguan. What happened? Yet Shangguan remained silent, just holding Yao. I'm sorry, I didn't protect you well. I just wanted to selfishly keep you as my only one. Have them three here this time. If the same situation happens next time, can I still have enough time to save you? Yao, my feelings for you have changed. Shangguan held Yao in his arms, his eyes brimming with a surging possessiveness. Just as Li Tianyang's shout rang out, the sound snapped Yao back to reality. Stop hitting them, she shouted loudly, pleading for the four sentries. They are innocent. If we don't do this, they won't be able to survive. Li Tianyang slumped to his knees on the ground, completely disheartened and despondent upon hearing the sound. Yao came to Yaoju's side and directly slapped him twice on Yaoju's face. Who dares to hit me? Yaoju was awakened by this intense pain. The moment he clearly saw Yao's face, Yaoju almost instinctively contorted his features into a hideous grimace and even struck. Counting loudly, she shouted for her 5 sentinels to fight together to kill Yao. But soon, Yao whispered a single sentence made her instantly lose heart. My dear sister, you wouldn't want everyone to know. I bet you didn't know your 5th sister came back to life. And as such a formidable guide, right? Her words instantly made Yaoju was startled. She hurriedly and slickly got up. I admit defeat. Saying so, she released her own spirit. Leave her sentinels in the frenzied period instantly returned to normal, yet just as she was about to leave, Chang Li stopped her. Although Yao is going to battle you, Yao absolutely will not engage in a spiritual battle with your sentinel. Why are all 4 of your sentinels in a frenzied period during the battle? Chang Li's entire body was filled with bloodlust. Almost Yaoju was so frightened that she knelt down, her face, her body trembling slightly. This was her first time knowing the intimidating pressure of an SSS glass sentinel. Just one look into her eyes is enough to understand she and her the distinct hierarchy of power that even 5 sentinels combined could absolutely not overcome. S rank and SS level, it can be said to be a world of difference. Chang Li Yao frowned and interrupted his ferocity. Just a second ago, he was still fierce. Bao looked at Chang Li, who was staring at Yaoju's corpse. And in an instant, he put on a pitiful, foolish expression. Turn around, aggrieved. Yao, the soft, fluffy call is hard to believe came from the fierce one just now. The fierce-looking SSS glass sentinel. Yaoju's expression twisted for a moment, jealousy surging even more fiercely too. Her heart surged with emotion as Chang Li looked at Yao with an innocent, tragic expression, his lips almost forcing out each word. The kind of talk that says I like Yao Yao, I love Yao Yao, I don't want Yao Yao to get hurt, but the next moment he sees Qin Moxiao not far away was looking at him with suggestive eyes. Only that way could he deceive dear Cheng Li. In an instant he understood their thoughts. The fervor on his face turned to sorrow as he lowered his head, hiding the emotions in his eyes. So want to do such excessive things to Yao Yao like this, but Yao Yao would definitely be scared away looking. The panic in Cheng Li's eyes made Yao Yao freeze for a moment, leaving only helpless worry. How did you? The fluster in her tone was only due to her concern for Cheng Li. What was going on? Her comrade Sheng Guan was not too right. How come even Cheng Li seems a bit off? The corner of Cheng Li's lips lifted almost imperceptibly. Your heart is really so soft. A flicker of triumph flashed through Cheng Li's eyes as Sheng Guan had said. The method is indeed effective. Yao Ju's eyes were about to pop out in shock, that which made her tremble from the depths of her soul. The SSS level sentinel who had never felt fear before. Why was he leaning on Yao Yao's shoulder with such an expression? Head just like a pitiful little dog, lunging towards its owner, wanting to be petted. In the Bay Area villa after the incident, Li Tianyang, tortured till only a breath remained, murmured in the last minute of his life. He murmured, Yao Yao, 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 as if by doing so, he could feel the field where his sentinel coexisted with him. Jing Chenwei listened to his words and sighed helplessly. Help me, open the door, Li Tianyang called out weakly. Chenwei was puzzled but still complied. Li Tianyang crawled out just like that, scraping against the ground, heading toward that glimmer of light. Bright walked to the last second of his life. A hidden filth marked one's bloody aura emerged from the shadows. That was that low-level filth precisely because his level was low, managed to evade the countless sentries and guides within the B District villa. He thoroughly investigated the absorption of Li Tianyang's body along with the memories after Li Tianyang's death. The filth of 3 consecutive promotions, the chaotic brain was recorded by Li Tianyang's last moment before death, occupied by memories only. That last bit of longing and obsession for Yao Yao remains. Yao Yao, Yao Yao, he murmured, muttering to himself, dragging his body towards the ghost weeping forest. He had only one obsession in his heart: he must succeed. SS level, he wants to become Yao Yao's sentinel.